Welcome to our July coffee hour. Today's coffee hour is special. It has a theme, and the theme is early career opportunities. And this event is organized in collaboration with Educate Maine, one of our partners. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Agnieszka Carpenter, and I'm the Executive Director of BioME. And we do a coffee hour event every month or almost every month. So yeah, I mentioned this one is done in collaboration with Educate Maine, and our first speaker will be Kate Howell from Educate Maine, who will tell you a little bit more about that organization and more specifically about the Career Catalyst program. Before we start, just a couple logistics. So the chat function is on, and we encourage everybody to leave your questions in the chat. Please don't be shy. The questions could be general or they could be directed to a specific speaker. And then towards the end at about 11:45, we're going to have a Q&A. And I also wanted to throw a warm welcome to all the students, recent graduates and interns who are joining us today, as well as our regular BioME community. Before we start, I also wanted to just tell you that our next event is on August 10th. And for that month, we are planning an in-person summer networking reception. Everybody's invited. It's going to be at University of New England in Biddeford at 5 p.m. So if you're not doing anything that day, we hope you can join us. All the registration and other information is available on our website. And also thank you to our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do these events. So thank you so much. Okay, and I think it's time to introduce our first speaker today. And our first speaker is Kate Howell from Educate Maine. She's the program director of Maine Career Catalyst. And Kate, whenever you're ready.
Great, good morning and welcome to many of the interns that work through the employers that we partner with for Maine Career Catalyst this morning. This is an exciting day for us to work with Bioscience of Maine. We partner with them regularly. It's definitely a focus area, and I'm happy to serve on the education committee for that organization as well. So it's exciting to be a part of this and be able to speak to all of you and share the insights of so many people who work in the industry. Agnieszka and I kind of work together, and I'm the first speaker because I might be setting the stage a little bit for today's conversation, talking a little bit about my program and Educate Maine, as well as some insights into the industry, and I'll share more about that before we hear from three people who are working in the industry in many different areas. So thank you for having me today. As Agnieszka said, I am the program director at Educate Maine, and I run the Maine Career Catalyst program. So Educate Maine is a nonprofit based in Portland, but we work statewide. And we champion career readiness at all levels from cradle to career. So we work with people, whether it is in early childhood education or as adult learners. My program, Maine Career Catalyst, focuses specifically on college age career readiness and internship programming. We're expanding beyond internships into co-ops and apprenticeships. So many different areas and ways that students can find their way into Maine's workforce. But we always see that, especially in the summer, internships tend to be the biggest way that people get career experience or experiential learning on the job. We are also a partner with Focus Maine, which helps to grow businesses and jobs in some of Maine's most competitive industries and in industries that are prepared for the biggest growth. And bioscience and life sciences is one of those industries. So they focus on the life sciences, aquaculture, and agriculture, and the food economy. So for students who are part of our program, you've heard those three over and over again, and we have some other industry exploration events going on, but this one is particularly special for us because it's one of the focus areas that we intend to grow in that we know that a lot of students are working in, and where we know that our industry partners are continuing to grow and do a lot of hiring. So what we do as a program is very supplemental to employers. So we partner with organizations like the Bioscience Association of Maine, but primarily we partner with employers who are hiring experiential learners for the summer. Again, whether that is co-op, intern, apprentice, fellow, students who are working towards a degree and who are getting experience so that they can move into the industries that they want to work in and understand what Maine has to offer. And what we do, again, is supplemental. So it's beyond anything that the student might experience with their own employer. So for large employers, that may be that larger employers may have more programming to offer internally. And we're focusing on showcasing what Maine has to offer and kind of all of the different opportunities that are out there. And for smaller employers, we kind of help level the playing field in a lot of ways. So whether you're working at a small nonprofit or a startup that maybe doesn't have as many employers, as many employees, we offer lots of professional development like these sessions every week, and then also in-person activities to do a lot of networking so that students can build community around Maine. So that's a little bit about what I do and what our program offers. We work with a lot of bioscience companies, a number of which we're also on Agnieszka's sponsorship list. So we're very connected in a lot of different ways. I wanted to share a little bit about my own career and my career path with students to help showcase kind of the ways that careers can kind of have different paths, and also a little bit more about the biotech industry. So although I work at a nonprofit now, I came from the industry side, and that's actually how I got involved in this program. I worked directly with Educate Maine and the Maine Career Catalyst program at my former employer. And all of the students that I hired into internship positions were a part of this program. So it was a great opportunity for me to see what Educate Maine was already doing and take advantage of those opportunities with the students I was working with. I spent my career building my career in human resources, specifically in early talent development, university recruiting, and building internship programs. So one of the reasons that I was excited to take on this role with Educate Maine was to help work with small employers who were interested in building an internship program or starting a program for the first time. So if there's employers on the call who are interested or thinking about how they could help build a new pipeline into their talent workforce, I'd be happy to chat with you as well after this program to talk about how you might be able to get involved with us in the years moving forward and how we could help build that talent pipeline for you. As many of our speakers today are probably going to talk about, getting different experiences is absolutely the way forward, and learning what you like, what you are good at, what works for you, what you're interested in are all ways that you need to learn before kind of jumping in to your first position if you can. And internships are a great way to do that. And so I'm excited to hear from all of them. A little bit about my career path. I graduated with a business degree from Syracuse University. I believed at the time that I wanted to go into human resources, so I majored in it, and clearly found a good path for myself. That's not always the case, and I'm sure we'll hear for some people that have taken some pathway turns. But I think that one of the things that I really enjoyed and what I enjoyed later in my career, but I didn't recognize at the beginning, was all of the pathways and doors that were open to me through my career. I think people coming out of college often have a very specific idea of what their first job or their career is going to look like, and don't necessarily open their eyes to all of the possibilities. So I knew that I wanted to do human resources. I had a number of opportunities to intern in different areas. I learned a lot about what I did and didn't want to do in the HR field. I knew I loved recruiting. I knew I did not love benefits. So there's different pieces of that, but what I didn't do was explore a lot of industries. So for me, I actually jumped around a lot of industries, which ended up being really fun. And I learned a ton about what's out there, but I think that's something that students often miss. They're so focused on the career aspect of what they're doing. They're not as focused on the industries that are available. What are you passionate about? What are you motivated by? And so I'm excited that there's so many students on the call today to learn about the bioscience industry, because there is so much to offer. And even within that, there's so many different aspects of the field. And I'm excited to hear from some of our other speakers about their experiences, because keeping your eyes open to what all of those are is something that can really help you on your path to figuring out where you want to work. Even just hearing from a panel like today can help you understand the types of businesses that are out there, what excites you, what you're passionate about. And I didn't find that until later in my career. So, I mean, I had the benefit of working for many different areas. I worked for a political consulting firm, a PR agency, the New York Public Library. I worked for a number of small nonprofits. And then in my last position, I worked for 5 years at a biotech company here in Maine. So I do have that background as well. So as we're taking questions later today, I certainly can answer some questions about what I looked for as a recruiter, as we were hiring interns and as we were hiring, excuse me, early career talent, people in their first jobs. I can certainly help kind of make that connection to what we were looking for. I worked with Danny, who's one of our other speakers at my former employer. So there's definitely a lot of connections that can be made through those. And as I said, it's how I got connected with Focus Maine and Educate Maine to end up in this role. And I think that a theme, knowing the speakers that we're going to hear from today, a theme that you'll probably hear, although I don't know if it'll be put in this way, I learned this terminology about 2 years ago, but that there are no career ladders, but there are a lot of career jungle gyms out there. And it is not one path straight up. There's a lot of different ways that you can go. And there's a lot of different job titles at different organizations. They mean different things. And so to keep your mind open to what you're really interested in and what experience you're going to gain, and not be as concerned with the title and whether it feels like a move up or it sounds like a move up to someone else outside. If it's the right move for you, it will be a move up and it will be an opportunity to stretch yourself. And to do that, you can really accelerate your career by having so many different experiences as you're going, and really help yourself in any of the interviews that you're having. The more passionate you are, the more interested you are, the reasons that you take jobs is going to come out for people if you're excited about learning and accelerating your career. So all of that to say, all of my career moves have led me to Educate Maine and running this program. And I've built a great network within the bioscience community through my past position, which has helped me in this one. So definitely be open to kind of what's out there and what's in front of you, even if it feels like, oh, that wasn't exactly what I had planned. I certainly know that can feel a little off. It can feel a little scary, but I certainly think that it's a great way to move forward. So that's a little information for some of our students out there listening as we head into some of the other speakers today. But I welcome any of the employers to reach out if you have questions about our program, and definitely any of the students as you're going through the rest of your program or today, if you have questions about recruiting and hiring. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Kate. That was actually pretty inspirational. I found it inspirational. Thanks so much again. And okay, yeah, so if folks have questions for Kate, please leave them in the chat box or save them till the end and you can ask the question then. Our next speaker is Dr. Sarah Peterson from IDEXX, and Dr. Peterson is the manager of clinical research there. Sarah, whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you so much. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here to participate, and also thanks to the BioME leadership for inviting me today. So the story I want to tell you about today is one where I was the kind of kid who at age 3 knew I wanted to be a doctor. So I went straight through to medical school, and I actually got into practice and realized that what I thought was my dream job wasn't actually dreamy. And so hopefully today I'll take you through a little bit about what it looks like to make an early career change. A little bit of background about me. I actually grew up in Scarborough, just south of Portland. I left Maine to go to an 8-year program in undergraduate and medical education that was in Brown University. I then came back to do my clinical internship at Maine Medical Center. From there, I transitioned into a postdoctoral fellowship in research at Maine Medical Center Research Institute, and also in Scarborough. So at that point in my career, I was thinking about transitioning into a full-time career in research, and I really wasn't sure what to do next. I could continue as I was with the MD only in a career in research, but I actually decided to go back to school at that point. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I joined the University of Maine Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences and Engineering. When I finished my PhD in cell and molecular biology, I then did another postdoc in cardiorenal biomarker discovery and heart failure at Maine Medical Center Research Institute. And from there, I made kind of an unconventional change to move to industry. So right now I work with IDEXX and I manage clinical research, both human and veterinary. And then down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see just some of the associations and professional development organizations, especially the National Postdoc Association that I was involved with for 10 years, that have really shaped my professional development experience. So one of the things I learned at IDEXX is that it really helps to work with other people when you just take a minute to get to know them. At IDEXX, this might look like just taking that time to have lunch with somebody out on the patio before a meeting. And you know, we've permeated that throughout the culture at IDEXX. So now with our growing clinical research team, we always start our team meetings with some kind of an icebreaker question. And most recently, you know, we decided, you know, just create one slide about yourself. And so I want to share that today. And I think, you know, if you ask me questions at the end of the talk, I'll want you to share something about your favorite something, any category that you want, and then you can ask me your questions so we can start to make that connection. So mine starts on Back Cove Trail. I never thought I would be a runner, but with the pandemic and gyms being closed, I had to just think of a new option. So I started running around Back Bay, and I just found these beautiful, gorgeous sunsets. This is one that I took a picture of during the pandemic. I do have a go-to pandemic survival strategy, and that is being in the moment. So when my daughter's like, hey, it looks like I could fit in your shirt, can I try? You just say yes. Give her a thumbs up, and you just go for it. You know, I mentioned a little bit about what I was like as a kid, and I love to read. I just love to input information, education. You know, as a kid, that might look like a lot of books, but then as an adult now, it looks more like podcasts, journal articles, just inputting like what's the latest information and how can I file that away somewhere. Everybody in a stressful job, I think, needs a place to escape. And mine is, our family has a cute little lake house in Raymond, and it's not fancy, but for me, it's a place to just get away from the city and really relax and spend some time with our kids. I have a couple favorite swimming guinea pigs. So we spent some time at the lake with them this summer, and just to show you that guinea pigs actually do swim, I'm just going to share this little video of them having a guinea pig race across our little lakefront property. I have two daughters, Ferris, who's starting Portland High School this fall, and hopefully will get involved in BioME at some point when she's a little bit older, and Mabel, who's 10. Right before the lockdown of the pandemic, we had actually just taken a trip in the Maine Hudson Trails system to cross-country ski into one of their lodges, which was amazing. And then finally just switching into holiday traditions. I don't know if anybody else shares the same fascination with fire I do, but this is a quick little video of just a gingerbread house on a bonfire, which is just absolutely amazing with the different kinds of candy and watching how they burn. So if you're curious at all about how candy burns, I recommend that activity. And then finally, I just wanted to show a picture of my family, as well as my partner, who was previously a pediatrician and made sort of a mid to late career change to be a writer. So he just finished up his master's in fine arts in fiction writing. So with that, I'm going to switch to the next slide. So the main, career advice that I would offer to someone who's early career is, if you're unhappy, make a change. And Dumbledore didn't say this, but I can imagine that he might have said this, that sometimes happiness can be found in the most unconventional career choices. Kate mentioned a couple themes that I think, resonate for me as well, where, you're on a certain path and you want to get there and you're just making a beeline, but you get there and you realize, like, gosh, maybe this isn't what I thought it was. For me, it was actually working, in clinical medicine, and I had an idea about what it would be like to, see patients and practice medicine. And when I got there, it wasn't what I thought it would be. And that was the point when I really had to evaluate. I had finished my clinical internship at that point, and I just realized I really wanted to pursue a career in research. And so I made a pretty difficult decision to leave my residency program. And I did that, in a lot of consultation with them so that they were able to seamlessly fill my spot in the residency program. And that's when I, switched into a postdoctoral research fellowship. But at the time, none of these decisions were really easy. A lot of people were like, well, you're so close to just finishing your training, just power through 2 more years. But if you realize that the direction is not where you want to go, it doesn't matter how many years you've got left. Like, I really just encourage you to make that change. And the other thing is that nobody can really answer that question for you except yourself. I think Kate mentioned getting a lot of different experiences and to help inform like what you really enjoy. I know for myself, I love staying on the cutting edge of research in medicine. And I found a way to do that at IDEXX, managing clinical research, which is really exciting. I also love conferences. And so I found a job where I can basically go to a lot of different conferences, both in human and veterinary medicine. And I just really enjoy meeting those different people and getting those different perspectives. And so I found a way to make it work for me. I've been able to use all of the sort of training and fellowships and graduate student work that I did to inform my current job. But, as you might imagine, it's not a straight path. And I think the other sort of career decision I want to make that I still made pretty early career was finishing up my second postdoc. I'd spent many years in academia at that point. The natural, next step would have been to seek a faculty position at a medical school or some other kind of undergrad or university. And I actually did go through the whole faculty search, but I also did an industry search on the side. And when the position at IDEXX popped up in cardiorenal biomarker discovery, and I got involved in some of the very exciting initiatives in the cutting edge science that I had access to at IDEXX, I just took a right turn and decided, like, well, I'll just try it out and see how it goes. And so that's worked out really well for me as well. So seek a lot of advice, but remember that you know yourself best, and ultimately you've got to figure out what you really enjoy doing. So this last slide I want to share is just what I've learned about the evolution of team science at IDEXX. And I thought when I joined IDEXX that I understood team science and collaborating, and I had a lot of collaborators. I'd worked with industry partners. I'd worked with people across organizational boundaries at different universities and research institutes. But it was really at IDEXX that I learned what it means to to really do team science, where you have, 5 to 6 to maybe 10 or 11 people on a single project with a single goal, working towards that. And everybody has a completely different perspective and area of expertise. I often find that I can find myself up here, diving into like a very specific area, and someone from a completely different department will just, give me that perspective that what I'm actually looking at as a mammoth. And like, sometimes you can't see it if you're looking at it under a microscope. So that to me just really resonated with the importance of interacting with people outside your field and really getting a sense of where other people are coming from. And inherent in all that is good communication. So I think that's it for the slides. So I will stop sharing. We just have a few minutes left. So I think I'll turn it back over to the facilitators. And if we have time at the end, people are welcome to ask me any questions that they have. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It was nice to personally get to know you. I really appreciated all of the visuals, and I had no idea that the guinea pigs can swim. So, you learn something new every day. And we are now going to move to our next speaker, and our next speaker is our very own board member, Patrick Breeding, who is the entrepreneur and a co-founder of Dermarus.
Thanks, Agnieszka. And Sarah, I just have to say, that was such a wonderful presentation. That you made me smile and laugh multiple times there. And I will always remember that. That was so enjoyable. I love that Dumbledore quote. I really like that Dumbledore quote. And I really like that you said your pandemic survival strategy is being in the moment. I feel like that's such a good life strategy, especially if you feel like you're at a junction in your career where you're thinking about, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What's the next step? Sometimes just being in the moment and finding the flow is actually the path. It's neither of those questioning who you want to be paths. That was really enjoyable. Thank you for that. I don't have any slides to share, but my name is Patrick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dermarus. We create active skincare ingredients from sustainable marine sources. And we really operate through our first skincare brand, Marin Skincare, where we create gentle and effective products for people with eczema, psoriasis, and really dry skin, using a glycoprotein that we discovered found in lobster, which has certainly been a really interesting path. Did not think that I would be in skincare, did not think it would be skincare and lobster, certainly not. But I think rather than talk about what we do at our company, I'd like to follow in Sarah's footsteps and just talk a little bit about my journey and maybe highlight some of the psychology that has helped me develop the way to think about things as I kind of matured and moved forward. I went to Maine for biomedical engineering undergrad as well as grad school. I was not the person that knew what they wanted to do. I had a motivation to be in the field of bioscience, and that was stemming from my dad being diagnosed with cancer when I was in high school. So I was very intimately involved with medicine and being in that experience and seeing things that I thought could be improved. And so it motivated me to pursue biomedical engineering. When I got to school, I had that motivation, but I just I hadn't found my flow. Admittedly, just very, very happy to admit that I was a C and B student all the way until a particular experience that I had. So I always felt like, and maybe some people can resonate, I'm just kind of this kid, this student, this person before the person I wanted to become. And I had this really important life-changing experience, which is my first research opportunity in a chemistry lab. I was able to take a lot of what I learned in my courses and start to apply them. I started to be able to have the space to find research problems that I wanted to tackle and develop the tools to be able to understand them and to really just go look into the world and find a problem and be able to research it and try to come up with a solution. But the more important part of that was I was surrounded by people that I really enjoyed working with, and a grad student, his name was Aaron, that completely changed my life. And it was really simple. When I got into the research lab, I didn't feel like a student. I felt like a competent professional. He treated me like one, and he gave me responsibilities like one. So I began to believe that I was one. So I stepped into that identity. And after that summer of that chemistry lab research experience, everything just boom, turned around for me. Straight A's after that. I went from research opportunity to research opportunity. And I just felt like I was in the space where I was empowered. I was treated like somebody I wanted to become. And I became that person. I could investigate any problem I wanted to. So I worked in chem lab, biomechanics or biomaterials lab, and optics lab, and had all these really, really cool different experiences, which Kate alluded to. And it was really, for me, it was play. It was learning all of these different scientific languages, how to speak them, how to finesse within them and solve problems within them, how to use the respective tools. And I felt really capable in many disciplines. That was really important for me. And the takeaway was, I think, surrounding myself with the environment of who I wanted to become. I took that, and at the end of undergrad, we were presenting our capstone project, and we just created a little simulator for nurses to train to diagnose different respiratory issues in children without having to actually practice on real children. We brought it and we presented, and it was a really interesting experience where these entrepreneurship and innovation and business people came over and said, wow, this is really cool. It seems like the nurses really like it. Have you ever thought about bringing it into the world? We were like, what do you mean? We did the research project. I don't get what you're saying. And they said, well, if you want to really bring it into people's lives, you can do that through a business. And the light bulb clicked on for me, and I started to understand how to go from idea to research to bringing something all the way into the world through the form of a product and business. And that's the way that a lot of these things work. So that was the beginning of starting my first company when I was 21 at the end of undergrad, and I just stepped into the experience and learned a lot of really, really great things. To summarize that experience, I think I developed a lack of care for what people would think of me if I went out and really publicly went for it and really publicly failed. And I did that many times, and it was very embarrassing. And my ego was certainly stripped and tested and kind of rebuilt over many experiences. But I think kind of submitting to the process was an important part of it, because in my research experience, I was the learner, I was the fool in the beginning that allowed me to become, there's a saying that you have to be the fool before you become the master. I'm not a master of anything, but I certainly became more competent than the fool. So at least I could learn how to do things, and I kept going through those experiences. So research taught me how to understand a problem and tackle it. Entrepreneurship taught me how to figure out a solution and then find product market fit, bring it into people's lives, and actually make it work. So in grad school, I founded multiple companies. Now I'm working on Dermarus and Marin. We were able to launch our skincare brand back in October, and it's been growing at a rate that we didn't expect it would, in a very positive way. And it's been a continuous step of stepping into a new identity and shedding limiting beliefs that tell me I can't be that person, you know what I mean? And really constructing the environment and the thought processes and the experiences to allow me to become that next version of the person I want to be. So I think a really interesting, I was trying to write down takeaways and maybe what might be the most important thing that people could hear at this point in time, whether it's undergrad, the middle of undergrad, the end, middle of grad school, deciding between a master's and a PhD. Why would you want to pursue that versus not? I think the first thing to recognize is that it's your journey. It's nobody else's. It's not your parents. It's not your friends. It's not your advisors. It's yours. And so I think it's really important to tap into to a little bit of mindfulness and just to sit back without any external stimulus and just think about, what do I enjoy? What do I like? If there are different things that I like, what about those do I like? Might I find those in another place? Or what are those places, and what would those roles look like? And I was thinking about maybe a way to think about two places a person might be in this important part of their selection of what career they want to go into, which is it's not an all defining selection. It's very fluid, like everyone's talking about. And I think a lot of people might think that right now, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm interested in a lot of things. If you're in that scenario, I think it's just really important to connect with the fact that it's just time to play. No decision you make is going to define really any part of your future. It will just put you on a different path. And if you follow what you're interested in and what gets you into flow, you really can't go wrong. So recognize that if I don't know what I want to do right now, it's okay. It's time to play. Play in the form of an internship, a fellowship, work in a lab, do work for free if necessary, create experiences for yourself that allow you to play and explore the world and see the way that things work, whatever it is you're interested in. If you are very, very interested in a specific thing and you know what you want to do, like Sarah was in the beginning of her experience, perhaps, like I mentioned that I was, you might find that I really want to be on this track. I really want to be a doctor, but I don't believe that I could ever be a doctor. And I think it's important, if you're in that situation, to connect with an identity is built with a set of beliefs. If you don't believe you're a doctor, you won't be a doctor until your environment shows you are. So start to put in place identity affirming practices that show you that you are the person that you want to be, slowly over time. It could be really anything, any form of stimulus. It could be waking up and having a piece of paper and looking at it and saying, I'm a doctor. Or it could be going and spending a little bit more time in the environment that doctors spend time in. It could be spending more time around doctors. It could be spending time around the right peer groups that want to be doctors. But form your environment around what you want to do and who you want to become. Again, it's your journey, so it's up to you to find what that is. And so I hope that's a useful framework of thinking. If you don't know what you want to do, play. If you do know what you want to do, go ahead and create your environment for that, and go on a date with that future self and see if you like it. Like Sarah's saying, you may not, and that's totally fine too. Wouldn't you have wanted to get a taste for it before you committed X amount of time of your life to it? So I hope that's useful. I don't really have much to share about our entrepreneurship ventures. I think it's more helpful to think about how to think about it. So happy to answer any questions about that, or about entrepreneurship stuff, or deciding between grad school or not, or industry, or whatever that looks like. So I'll turn it back to Agnieszka.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Always valuable advice from you, and a different perspective and a different framework of thinking. So thank you so much for that. And now we're moving to our last speaker today. And our last speaker is Dr. Daniel Callis from Bowdoin College. Daniel is the Associate Director of Science and Healthcare at Bowdoin.
Awesome. Thank you, Agnieszka. All right, I do have some slides to show some folks. And I loved everything that I've heard so far. It's been fantastic to hear from other people's careers. Quick comment, careers, it's not just your job. Everything that you are doing in life kind of builds towards your career. So there's a lot of things to kind of start working on it at any point in life. But let me go into my slides here. All right, so I kind of did a little copycat move here, and I wanted to show you where I am now. Some of the special people in my life at this moment. There's my wife with my little daughter. We just had a baby 3 weeks ago, so that's Leo. My wife Olivia, my daughter Nora. We have a cat and a dog who loves to play dress up. And a little bit of me, I love to surf as well. That's kind of my therapy, I guess you could say. Anyway, so we've been in Portland for some time now, but I didn't start here. I actually started back in El Salvador. It's a tiny little country in Central America. And as you can imagine, there's not a whole lot of R&D in El Salvador. But my passion for science was there from like a very young age. And the way that I explored it was through playing with Legos and nature documentaries and just playing outside. That was kind of like the beginning for me, like, kind of building my career in science, just experimenting, playing with things, constructing, experimenting. That was the name of the game. Luckily for my undergraduate, I was able to go to France and study in Lyon at a public university. And that was the third year of my undergraduate is when I was able to do my first like real research experience in an academic lab. And that was just mind-blowing. It was just fantastic. It was just such a privilege to be in that position, to like be there, actually set experiments, fail and try again and make things work. It was really what I wanted to do. And so in hindsight, I wish I would have had like a little bit of time to work between my undergraduate and my master's. But I was an international student, so I kind of had to push through. And I was also so fascinated by just the biology, biochemistry, structural biology, that I just kind of pushed forward and just kind of went for a master's like immediately. And I just kept getting like more research experience. I worked with like membrane proteins at the time, and NMR, like nuclear magnetic resonance. Anyway, and so after my master's, again, I was in kind of that go mode. And so I moved from France to North America because I wanted to get closer to family. And being in France, I only got to see my family once in 5 years. So that was kind of rough. So I decided to move to North America and pursue a PhD in biochemistry. So I was in Montreal, not that far from Portland. And I went to McGill University. So I did a 5-year program. Again, really research intensive, working with more proteins, more structural biology, other different techniques. In this case, I specialized using a fancy microscope that uses electron microscopy to get structural information on proteins. And then at this time, I kind of started to shift my focus from thinking that I was going to go into academia and maybe become a professor or teach, something like that. And I really started to kind of think of more industry opportunities. And so after my PhD, I basically went into industry work. So I moved to Portland with my partner, and I worked at Embryologics for a couple of years in R&D as a senior scientist. The work in the science was really, really fun, really exciting. I did a lot of assay development, a lot of work with like proteins, antibodies, enzymes. It was really, really great. The only thing is that I felt like I was not helping enough people. I always felt like going through the motions of like the undergrad, the master's, the PhD, that there wasn't somebody there to kind of coach me or give me some advice, especially as somebody, a Latino in science. So I kind of wanted to see if I could be that person to somebody else. And luckily, I stumbled onto my role at Bowdoin College. So that kind of was a little bit of a tricky move, but I decided to take a risk and just kind of try it out. Sometimes you just kind of go for it, and it's been fantastic. Being in the position of helping students kind of learn where they want to go, why they want to do some career, some job, some internship, hesitating between different tracks. Helping students prepare to apply for things. So it's been really, really like great. And also I've been able to work with students of color from all over the US, which has been fantastic. Because again, that's a pretty important mission for me, to kind of get more students and more diversity in biotech and science in general. So that's kind of where I'm now in this position at Bowdoin College. And so the next kind of like few slides is kind of some advice that I wanted to offer up. So I wasn't sure how many students were, in high school, but I guess my first advice is stay active and curious. If you're in high school, learn from labs and courses, start projects, volunteer or do summer jobs. Everything helps. For me, as you could see, early on, I played with Legos. That was like kind of my thing, and documentaries. And then as soon as I could, I started playing in the lab. But you can get experience everywhere. If you're an undergrad, tap into extracurriculars. Academics is not the only thing. Tap into athletics, tap into clubs. If you're a first or second year student, definitely, think of volunteering, summer jobs, and then pursue internships. I think that's definitely the next step to kind of get more hands-on experience. You can definitely pursue research in academic labs, but if you want to try out industry, I think you should go for it. And if you're in graduate school, I would say don't stay confined to the academic world. Definitely take courses outside of your specialty. Take short skill building tutorials or courses if you can. Talk to people in industry, not just your professors. Maybe try out internships or co-ops as well if they're not already part of your program. A summer could be a fantastic time to just get that experience and get exposure to a different set of techniques, environments, connections. So it all helps. And advice number 2 would be start early with the planning for whatever you're thinking. If it's next summer or if it's in 2 or 3 years from now, start thinking about it. Take it as a kind of as a hobby, if you like. And get help often, not just once, but just kind of keep talking to people, keep checking in, find advisors and mentors. So if you're in high school, again, talk to family, friends, go to events, talk to career planning counselors. If you're an undergrad, same, talk to career services. I think it's really underutilized. I did not tap into it early enough. Talk to people in industry. So networking, super valuable. And this is super helpful. Get help on your resume and cover letters. It will really help to land those opportunities, those internships that you really need, or your first out of college job as well. And if you're in graduate school, again, talk to people in industry. I think that's kind of a big theme. That's something that I did a lot, going through the motions, just talking to people that were at different stages in their careers or in their paths. And you can start talking to alumni. You can start talking to people in, not just professors, but other researchers, and learn about companies and entry points in those companies. It could be local. It could be in a city that you want to move to. And again, get help on your documents, on not just your CV, but you should have a resume as well, and get help on writing cover letters. I think telling good stories is really valuable and really helps you land those interviews and those internships and those first out of college jobs. So yeah, get help. Don't stay alone. You don't have to go through it alone, and you can definitely tap into people. And with that, I don't want to get us too far, out of time. So I'd like to thank BioME and all the presenters as well. I love hearing from everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Maine is lucky to have you. BioME is also lucky because Daniel is on our education committee and is invaluable in all sorts of aspects. So now is the time. We don't have too much time. We have about 10 minutes, but we do have some questions from the audience. Kind of going to go from the back here. So one question we have is, there is a lot of talk about volunteering opportunities or unpaid internships. Any suggestions other than this for low-income individuals who cannot afford to do these types of things, but still want to try to move into the biosciences? And this is a question for anyone.
I can jump in on that. So first of all, that it's definitely something that a lot of people have brought up, and that I hear from students a lot. Hopefully there aren't a lot of unpaid internships. It should be pretty rare, and our organization is working really hard to make sure that any of the businesses that are our partners are required to pay their interns, or that you're receiving school credit while you're going to school, so that you are getting compensated in some way for what you're doing. That said, internships don't always pay what you need them to do that. So, look at part-time positions where you could work another job. Look at volunteer opportunities that might be 1 day a week that get your foot in the door somewhere. But I also want to promote through the education committee at Maine Bioscience Association, we do offer a stipend program for interns for the summer. That applications, I can't remember when they're going to open next year, Agnieszka, but they will open in the winter, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, I think in February. So we have this summer internship scholarship, and it's specifically for students who would like to do an unpaid internship over the summer, but can't really afford it. So we offer, I think it's $4,000 you get paid up front, and that will help cover those costs. So I encourage any student who's here today who is thinking about something like that to apply. The details will be on our website, probably January or February.
And then also through Maine Career Catalyst and Educate Maine, we are running a similar program that is for low-income students, but specifically students of color. It's an equity and internships program that is $1,000 stipend. We're hoping to grow support for the program and have it be a little bit more, but it is another stipend that can be used for that same thing for students of color who need to remove barriers that are precluding them from being able to take on an internship, whether it's unpaid or minimally paid.
Thank you for that, Kate. I do have two questions. Both of them are about the resources. The first one, maybe I'm going to ask Patrick because it's probably is most relevant. So Patrick, are there any resources, or do you have any advice regarding starting a new business in biotech, specifically in Maine? Are there any resources that really helped you out?
There are a wealth of resources, and I think John just answered MTI in the chat there. But there's a web of supportive organizations in Maine that are unique to Maine. All you have to do is go looking for them and start asking people questions. Ask Agnieszka, share your vision, ask any of the people on the panel, ask me. MTI has been incredible for us in all of our ventures in providing funding. There are mentorship programs, whether it's SCORE, FAME, there's all of these competitions, Big Gig, Greenlight Maine. There's so much out there. I think it's definitely worth doing a little search online, going on LinkedIn, maybe finding some Maine entrepreneurs and seeing what they've done. But there's such a supportive web that I have to say, I mean, for me, I graduated with a undergrad degree in biomedical engineering, and I've formed multiple biotech or biotech relevant companies, which I think is wild, and it's incredible, and it's very much because of the support mechanisms here. So while I'm probably not doing the best job coming up with a list for you, and I really should because we have so many organizations that have supported us, there's a lot out there. I'd love to connect you with them, and it can allow you to, again, going back to the psychology, become someone that you did not believe that you could be, because there's so much support there. So just go looking for it. Wherever you want to start, just go looking for it.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And yes, if anybody's interested specifically in entrepreneurship, please contact us. We also have a section on our website, a resource section that lists all of these organizations, and Maine is actually known for really supporting small companies and startups. Okay, another question here is about writing cover letters, interviewing skills. Are there any specific resources that you have used to help you develop your resumes, cover letters, or interviewing skills for anyone?
Yeah, I can go into that. I would definitely say tap into career services so like an actual person, not a website, not a software, not Google. You find a lot of bad information on Google. You really want that one-on-one to get like some coaching on your resume writing, on your like cover letter writing, because yeah, you will see a lot of different things online, and some of them will kind of take you in not necessarily the best direction. So yeah, so that would be my first like advice. Talk to somebody that like advises on writing resumes and cover letters, because it does take time and it does take practice. And even if you're in high school, even if you're like at a PhD level, like get help. I've seen a lot of CVs and a lot of resumes that are not great, to put it lightly, from people that are really high up, and it kind of holds people back. So yeah, so just talk to somebody. And you know, colleges and universities typically have people that do that, like myself.
I'll just throw in there additionally, for those that are students working this summer, use the people that you're working with right now. Talk to your manager, reach out to the HR person that you interviewed with when you were getting your internship. Ask them what stood out about you in the interview, or have them look at your resume, especially if it's in the industry that you want to continue to work in. Most people would be more than happy to help. I know I did that a lot when I was at Envirologics as well with students, and just said, you know, I know what I'm looking for in this industry. I know what the managers are looking for when they look at a resume. You know, feel free to schedule some time with me and we can go over your resume and what could make it a little bit better. So if you're interning somewhere, feel free to use the resources available to you. It's also a great way to network and meet more people in the organization and connect with the HR team, especially if you're thinking that you want to go for a full-time job. Getting the advice of the person who's going to be reviewing your resume before you apply is never going to hurt you.
I really like that advice, and I know it can be a little intimidating, but if you really want to go forward, I think you have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit. And that's what we always tell our interns too. You know, networking is key, and BioME organizes all kinds of networking events that are open mostly to everybody. And we always encourage students to attend them, even if it feels uncomfortable and if it feels weird to go talk to people. That's how you get things done. That's how you get a job here. Other than internships, fellowships, and all sorts of other opportunities. I know I didn't get to all the questions, so apologies for that. Also, thank you for everyone who contributed in the chat. Thanks, John Conson. I see all your messages with all the resources. If anybody has any follow-up questions to any of our speakers or for BioME, please email us after. We will make sure to relay those messages to our speakers. Once again, our networking event in person is August the 10th at UNE Biddeford, and I just want to invite everybody to attend that event. We will love to see you all in person. I think this was a very special coffee hour. I really enjoyed all the presentations. I hope you did too, and I want to wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much, and until next time, bye.